Welcome back to Factorio Demystified. Topic for this session is the road to robots. We're going to be building up the infrastructure we need to produce robots, but not actually using them. We'll get to that in a future episode. We'll also be picking up some odds and ends as we get this set up. So the first item I want to add, key ingredient for both robots and actually the highest tier of transport belts, is lubricant. So we got a chemical plant for that. Want to hook up to heavy oil. And it's produced quickly, 10 heavy oil into 10 lubricant, 1 second crafting time. And I'm going to use efficiency modules, could use productivity, but that would just save us on heavy oil, which would just end up getting cracked into light and then cracked into petroleum gas, so not really worth doing that in my opinion. I'll just save on the power and pollution. And given how fast these produce, I should really only need one chemical plant doing lubricant for this factory. But we can always add more if we decide that we need them. So, since we're going to want to use this in both directions, north for the robots, and south for going to the supply depot, we're just going to run it out to the bus. And then we'll just create a bit of space here in the battery line. It's ready to go both directions, and lubricant is set up. Then in terms of fuel, we are currently using coal still, but it is probably time to stop doing that because of the option of solid fuel. We can produce that from 10 light oil, 20 petroleum gas, or 20 heavy oil. Light oil is the best buy, it's the most efficient. And the fuel value there, 12 megajoules, that's 3 times the 4 that we would get from coal. So given that it's more efficient, it's better for both energy and pollution standpoints, we should be moving into solid fuel for that reason only, but also look at the vehicle acceleration, 20% gain, 5% top speed. So easy sell. Then on the rocket fuel, which comes shortly after lubricant, early chemical science research, goes up to 100 megajoules in fuel value, so more than 8 times the fuel value of solid fuel, but it also is going to use 11 times the ingredients if you look at the 10 solid fuel and 10 light oil that's required. So it's not quite a bargain when it comes to that. There's some loss in efficiency there. But look at the acceleration and top speed, 80% vehicle acceleration, or a 50% gain over what solid fuel gives us, and then an additional boost to our top speed as well, up to 115%. And in combat, for example, with using your tanks or automobiles trying to get in and out and move around the battlefield, really, it's hard to put a high enough price on getting as most performance you can get out of your vehicles. And then with the trains, well, they're going to be able to get to their destinations much quicker with the increased acceleration and top speed. So that's going to allow them to actually burn less fuel overall because they're not going to be taking as long on the journey. So I think it's definitely worth it to go this route. Now we could set up all that production area right in here. We could simply be saying we're going to have our solid fuel and rocket fuel built and shipped out everywhere. But I'm going to want some down to the south by the train area and up to the north, as rocket fuel, as the name would indicate, is a key ingredient in the rocket that we're going to need to launch to win the game. So since I'm going to want it in both directions, you could still just produce it here and ship it off everywhere, but I'm going to ship off the light oil and then produce it where it's going to be needed. So we're going to just drop that off and also send light oil out to the bus. And some players get concerned at this point, well, what if I run out of light or heavy oil? Like I'm not using enough petroleum gas and then my whole refinery system jams up and I don't have light oil for my fuel or I don't have heavy oil for my lubricant. The only way that's going to happen is if you're really not progressing in science or for some other reason just aren't using any of your petroleum gas up. And I think you have to take a pretty extreme approach in order for that to actually be a problem. Really, all that's going to happen here is we're just going to be cracking a lower amount of light oil and heavy oil and the refiners have to work slightly harder to keep up with petroleum demand. So we're just going to bring this down, and I want to make sure that this is all synchronized. For example, we're just going to have the lubricant will be coming out this way, and so that we can have easy areas to pass through, we have all of our undergrounds synced up. So we're going up this way with the light oil, and so on. Here at the oil drop-off and train refueling station, we have solid fuel being made in this chemical plant, light oil coming in, and then also coming in over here for the rocket fuel. These take 40 seconds to produce currently, but they also last quite a long time, of course, given how much fuel is in them. And then here, I have a bit of a circuit network set up so that it's loading the wood into the train first. It'll only grab these when the wood is gone, just to burn through all this extra wood that we have. And once we build up some more of the rocket fuel, then we'll start using that even in our vehicles. There are also a few more items in the depot to be aware of. First up, the RoboPort. They're quite expensive. You can see 45 steel, iron gear wheel, and advanced circuits each. Also, this is the basic support structure, as the name indicates, for our robots. So we're going to want to have some of those available. Then we also have a new addition to our electric network, the substation. Copper, steel, and advanced circuits required here. They're made pretty quickly. And the key distinction here is the substation has an 18 by 18 supply area. Very large one as compared to even the medium electric pole at 7 by 7. They're also larger in themselves, so you need to create some room for them. But you can see if there's a bunch of machines in an area that all are going to require power, you can just slap down one substation if you make room for it, and it takes care of that whole area for you. And since the wire reach is also 18, you can stamp down these areas right next to each other. For example, if I had one here, then I can just place one right there, and they are going to line up perfectly. So that's very useful for us, and will provide some better solutions going forward in terms of where we're going to be placing our power connections. And then finally, up here in our final section of the depot, we have filled in a couple of these assemblers around the steel chests. We have the passive provider chests. You can see electric circuits, advanced circuits, steel chest, and then the same ingredients for this one, the storage chest. We're going to be using those once we get the robots all set up. Finally then, moving on to the north end of the factory as it currently exists, going past the battery chemical plants here, this is just a framework, an outline. This is where we're going to build the blue circuits, the processing units, and it's the last item that sulfuric acid is going to be used for in the bus, so I want it to be here. I don't want to hook this up yet, though. That will require scaling up the factory quite a bit to really get a decent amount of those out, and I want to have robots in place before that. So this is just reserving space, and then we're going to move up here to actually build our robots themselves. We'll start with one assembler that is going to give us pipes. Let's just hook up some power with our new substations. That should work quite well. And then from here, pipes can output here. And this is going to be iron and gear wheels for our next item, which is engine units. That plus the pipes gives us everything we need here. And then on to the new electric engine units. Engine units plus electronic circuits and lubricant. So let's again continue bringing the power. Cycle that around. Let's throw up some pipes. And we'll put this inserter here because this is going to be direct insertion. The engine units are 10 seconds crafting time. The electric engine units also 10-second crafting time. So that works very well pairing those together. And then we are going to go up even further. And this is our key item that we are building up to. The flying robot frames. They require an electric engine unit, but they take twice as long, 20 seconds, so we want 2 of these for every one of the electric engine units, every one of the regular engine units. And then it's going to need the electronic circuits as well, also batteries and steel. So we'll just hook those up. We can bring the batteries and steel in on this side, the north side. Then we'll output the robot frames onto this. And these are also going to be used not just for robots themselves, but also for late game science. So this is our first step really directly towards late game science as we're doing this. And it's good to have it on this side then so that it can just swing up wherever it needs to go for that production later on. Since we have a 2-to-1 here, we will just have, you will share your items between these. And let's just move over here another set so we can get a little bit better picture of exactly what is going to be going on here. So we'll duplicate our inserters. Swing this around, make sure that we have our pipes going. So we're going to have the batteries and steel coming in here, but we need the electronic circuits for both of these sets. So that will come in right here. And then we'll just use some undergrounds. Like so. And then everybody has access. We can swing the electronic circuits in this way. And then we can also swing them up to these assemblers. And all of that is going well. And then, of course, finally, we need to turn these robot frames into the actual robots. So that we will do up here. Let's plop down a couple chests. Like so. And let's just have you build the logistics. And you build the construction. Now, the construction robots and logistic robots are built very quickly. One flying robot frame. But they also require electronic circuits for the construction one. And advanced circuits for the logistic one. And so we're going to want to bring that in as well. And that's going to be our final path coming up through this direction. And that will basically finish off what we need to do to build robots. With everything now hooked up, this is our fully operational robot production now in progress. I have 6 of the flying robot frames assemblers going, which you might think that's a little bit low. But in actuality, the amount we're going to need for science once we get it going, the late game science that uses these, really less than 3 assemblers are even going to be needed for that. So we're going to have a good surplus of over half of this anyway, just going into building these. You might also ask, why am I not building the logistics and the construction robots down by the depot? Well, I just don't think it's worth routing all of these frames all the way down there for that purpose when we're not going to need to grab them often enough to make it worth it, I don't think. And we'll get into how all of that's going to work in the future episodes. What do we do with logistics and construction robots? How do they help our factory? Why are they such a game changer? So looking forward to that. Until then, thanks for watching. More Factorio Demystified will return.